Deb, again with iClimb, and today we're going to do some work on the floor. If the floor is not comfortable, do it in bed. There's a lot of little things you can do in bed to make things looser, make you more functional once you get up and rolling. So we're going to work on some of those today. I'm going to show you some of the things that I do literally at least 5 or 6 days a week before I ever get myself out of bed. So the first thing I want you to do is just lie on your back. Knees bent, feet flat. Knees should be level. If you've got one that's higher than the other, it's always because your feet aren't even. All right, so if these are even, your feet will be even if they don't feel like it. Now, I want your head to be back. Some of you, you've got so much tightness here and so weak on the backside, that's not going to happen. So what I want you to do, if this is your normal, take it back to here. You can pretend this is a pillow, all right? If you've got something that you can literally roll under your neck like a towel, do so. Here's why. Again, muscles or bones are moved by muscles. So when you put that under your neck, it's going to help reposition, realign that spinal, that cervical curve in your spine. So if you put this here, it'll help drop this back. You may feel a stretch here, that's perfectly fine. Ideally, we keep lessening that distance until we can lie flat on our back and the head is back too, all right? So once you're there, one of the first places to start is just do anterior, posterior tilts. So when you go to posterior tilt, in other words, belly button toward the bed, the floor, whatever you're lying on. Again, if you don't want to get on the floor, that's fine, but do something because again, you may end up there, but not on purpose. So what am I going to do? How do I get myself up? Your hips have got to be able to move enough to be able to get you where you want to go. So now, when you go to posterior tilt, do not use your glutes. The vast majority of you will because number one, you're weak here and you're using your glutes for things that movements they don't belong in. So anterior tilt, belly button forward, gap in the low back. Paraspinals are engaged, they're shortened. Again, there's that 90-degree connection. My paraspinals, transverse and low abdominals. Paraspinals, low abdominals. Now, as you do this, I want you to note how much range of motion you have. Go slow enough that you take note, is there tightness on one side? Is there tightness on both sides? This will be the easy one for most of you because that's where most of you hang. This is going to be the hard one, so if you want to, and I suggest that you hold this in a few seconds just to, again, get those paraspinals engaged. This curve belongs here. Learn to bring it back. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can actually lie on a rolled up bath towel. Now it has to be tight. You don't want it to be flat because it needs to be in that curved position. If you lie on it in this position, if it gets to get uncomfortable, just unroll it a little bit. Allow that lumbar curve to come back. It'll also help your hips to settle. But then you're going to do your anterior posterior tilt. And in terms of time, by the way, about 10 minutes in that position where you're just lying there. So literally you can lie there and do nothing and still gain progress. How's that? So you're going to go anterior, posterior tilts. Note, again, no glutes. All anterior muscles bring you into shortening mode, into flexion. Muscles on the back side bring you into extension. Now, if you want to gain even more out of that, once you've done a few of those, as you go to anterior tilt, retract the shoulders. Notice how much more extension I have in my spine. And I'm going to come back. What I want you to notice here is, are my right and my left shoulder working equally? Is the timing the same? Because a lot of times you're going to notice one goes before the other. One is limited, and probably your Parkinson side will be a little bit weaker, and it probably won't kick in until after the more dominant side. Anterior tilt, shoulder retraction, arms out, palms up. Posterior tilt, just relax the shoulders. Let those muscles on either side of your spine and sacrum lengthen and stretch. The more you engage, the more the low abdominals, the more they will. The hips need to stay flat to the floor, so you're not lifting, you're just tilting, all right? So this is a good place to start. So once you do that, I want you to try and stretch your legs out and see how that feels. Now, for a lot of you, they won't even want to stretch out. So I want you to try and tighten the quad, stretch your legs out. Notice I'm in dorsiflexion. The reason I'm doing that is because I can feel if there's any tightness in the lower leg, in the Achilles, and then I start doing that contralateral movement side to side. I'm kind of driving my heels toward the edge of the bed or whatever's at my feet. And again, I'm wanting my hips to move forward, the whole kinetic chain from the foot to the hip. My feet are facing straight up. I'm driving through the heels, so if it helps you to have a visual, always think about my heel goes first. I'm pushing through that heel to whatever. Now what you may notice is I've got a stretch on that side. I've got a stretch in my back, down the side of my hip. That's perfectly fine. That's what we want. We want to gain that range of motion. If it's tight, hold it there. I do that all the time. Allow those layers to let go as you hold that. Now, you can add arm to that. Give yourself some room, so you may have to slide down the bed or go kind of at a diagonal. And I can reach, same side. So I'm driving through the heel, in this case on the left, but I'm reaching up. So now if there's anything tight here, like if I've been on my side and I've been in that balled up, that fetal position, which is not good for your hips or anything like that, it will help open that up. Some of you may feel this on the front of the hip. That's not a problem. If this is too much, you can change it to short lever. But remember, this is the goal. We want to be able to use that whole kinetic chain from the foot to the hip. You may feel it in your abdominals. Again, if you're used to pulling under here, being in posterior tilt, this will all be tight. Stretch. Breathe. This is a good place. A lot of you are stuck in your diaphragm. If this sticks up and this is like hollowed out, your diaphragm's stuck. So take time to open up that diaphragm and the rib cage. So breathe, inhale, pull up that diaphragm, and you may feel a pull between your ribs, and that's perfectly fine. Again, that's going to change your ability to breathe and open up that chest cavity, as well as give better organ function. And then I'm going to do it on the other side. I'm going to drive that heel through, and I'm going to reach. And again, you may feel it on the front of one hip and not the other. That's probably some rotation that needs to change. But your hips stay down. I'm driving through the heel and I'm reaching. If it's stretching, hold it. What you'll also notice is you may initially feel it here, and now I feel it on the side. That's a good thing. That's just unwinding. Allow those things to happen. And too many people get in too big of a hurry. You can't, because you're not going to get your desired results. Drive through the heel, reach, try to keep that arm as close to midline as you can. Drive through the heel, and you're going to reach. Once you do that and you feel like on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 is none, 10 is the most, and you have no more tightness than a 2 or 3, then we're going to go back and we're going to put our feet with the knees bent, heels in line with sit bones. This is level again, all right? Look if you need to, arms are out here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rock slowly side to side, almost like we're doing this in slow motion. I also want you to notice what my shoulders are doing. In other words, when I go right, my left shoulder doesn't come up. It's not supposed to. So this is all about, in this case, shoulder stability in the upper mid-torso and allowing things to stretch here. A lot of you are going to feel a stretch on the side of the leg, the front of the hip, and down here. Some of you may feel it in the torso as well. And I would suggest once you start that rocking slowly, and you know which side's tight, then what I want you to do is I want you to hold, let your foot roll over. In other words, don't try to keep your foot flat to the floor. And you're just gonna hold that and allow those things that are connected to stretch out. Notice how much of, in this case, the right leg is down. For some of you, it does not want to let go. Let it. Breathe. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Pay attention to your breathing. What you'll notice again is one thing lets go and then you'll feel it someplace else. That's a good thing. And we're going to come back slowly and we're going to roll it over. And we're going to let it stretch. Again, there's not a right or a wrong. It depends on where your dysfunctional patterns are as to where you feel it. Let it stretch. Let it open. The higher your arms are at the side, the more you're going to get in that torso. And just let gravity take over. All right? Now, when you bring it back, and this is a mistake a lot of people make that they're not aware of, especially if it hurts in your hips, it's because you're using your legs and not your hips to bring yourself back. This is one of the reasons it's hard to roll over and get in and out of bed. The muscles that you should be using to roll over and sideways, run this way, all right? The muscles in your legs, the muscles run this way. That should tell you the direction of the movement. The muscles in the hips are this way. That's why that is what creates this movement here. If those muscle fibers run this way, they're not supposed to be able to take you up and down. That's what creates dysfunctional patterns. So the muscles in my legs, again, a minute ago we were going up and down and I can take things forward and back. Now we're working on muscles that run this direction. So we're going to go side to side until we feel that loosens up. And then we're going to open those feet, all right? This sequence is amazing for opening the hips. If your hips and all that are really tight in the morning, I would highly recommend you do this. Now, when you do this and separate your feet, you want to make sure they're equidistant. In other words, if I see my heel on one side, not on the other, correct it. And I want to open here. In other words, I don't want to collapse my knees. I want to keep my feet in line with my knees. If my knees are here, I'm going to feel weight distribution on the inside of my foot. If my feet are even and my knees are in line with my feet, I'm going to feel equal weight distribution. Learn to know what that feels like, all right? Play around with it. That's how I come up with new exercises all the time, is just getting in a position and creating things. Now I'm going to drop again. I'm letting this inner thigh muscle drop here, letting this rotate over to the side. Now I've got this space between my inner thigh and the floor, so gravity can work. Now I feel it in a different place than I did the first time. Again, I'm letting it stretch. Let gravity take over. Hold the position, not your breath. Let it let go. And a lot of times you'll feel it drop. And again, you can just hold that, work on your breathing. Long inhales, long exhales, and then you're going to use the hips to bring it back. Double check your spacing, and you're going to the other side. And again, what's tight, what's not? For a lot of you, even this is going to feel a lot looser than when you first started. All right? So then I want you to roll over onto your side. I'm going to roll over onto my left. You want to do this on both sides. So when you roll over, most of you are going to end up in a position like this, because this is what's comfortable for you, and a lot of times this is going to be forward. I want you in as much of a line as you can possibly get. Now, this is also a core exercise, as weird as that sounds. In other words, I've got to have my feet stacked, my knees stacked, my hips stacked, my shoulders stacked, my ear in line with all of that, not my chin dropped here. It changes my balance. A lot of you will feel like I've got to put my hand down. Again, this is core. Work on this. This is a comfortable position and it's not a problem, all right? So I'm opening this up. What does that feel like? Use my low abdominals, allow my hips to roll back, to roll forward with control. In other words, don't allow yourself to go all the way forward or all the way backward. So what I'm doing is I'm engaging muscles in the low abdominals, then I'm engaging muscles in my glutes to push me forward. That's a problem for a lot of you. Find that balance. Now what I want to do, and you'll need to have covers and sheets off here if you're doing this in your bed. I'm going to keep everything still except for the right leg in this case, all right? And I would almost guarantee you a lot of you are going to have to, in the beginning, put your hand out, not out here. Look what happened to my shoulder. I want this close to my body so that this shoulder stays in line here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this, and I'm going to lower it, and I'm going to lift it, and I'm going to lower it. I want the foot facing forward, and I'm going to lift, and I'm going to lower it. 100% of you are weak in lateral hip. They have a multitude of jobs. Stability is one. External femur, in other words, bringing that thigh away from midline, is another. I want the toe down and the heel up. Here's why. Most of you are here. In other words, that foot is everted, turned out, in standing and walking or whatever. That's automatically tightening this. If you turn the toe down and the heel up, it changes all of this and lengthens that space. The tightness is not near what it is when you're in that position. So it helps to release that and appropriately use the tensor and that lateral hip, just lifting up and down. And again, this is going to be a huge challenge for a lot of you because you'll feel like you want to roll backwards. Find that center. Squeeze your shoulder blades even laying on your side. If you feel like you're rolling forward, keep your chin open. Periodically check your position. And a lot of you, again, note how many you can do because a lot of you are going to feel the burn very quickly. Once you do several of those, and I would say work up to the point where 25, 30 is not a problem, that'll be a challenge for you, but I know you can do it. Once you do that, what I want you to do is lift, and now we're going to touch that toe in the front, in front of the bottom leg, foot, and you're going to lift and you're going to bring it to the back, so you're going to touch behind the heel. Lift and take it front, and lift and take it back. Again, most of you are going to feel like you need to put your hand down. If you do, once again, keep it close to the torso. This, again, is core on your side, swinging that leg front to back. Again, most of you are going to feel a huge burn right through here. Notice that I'm not letting anything move. Why am I doing this? In gait, I need to be able to step onto my left foot, swing this leg forward without anything else swaying or moving. I'm working on that on my side. I can do this in my bed. I can touch this in front, touch this in back. Get to the point where I don't need to put my hand down. Again, this is going to be a huge challenge for a lot of you. That's okay. Start somewhere. I'm lifting and I'm touching it in front, and I'm lifting and I'm touching it in back. And again, you're going to do that on both sides. Once you've done that, we're going to kind of release this. To me, this is one of the most basic exercises there is, and it is such a multitasker. We're going to go back on our back, and we're going to go to frog. I want my feet centered with my hips. And notice that when I go to frog, that position automatically creates a curve in my lumbar spine. You need this. A lot of you, this position alone will activate muscles that are really weak. So I'm going to get there. If your hips hurt in the middle of the night or when your hips hurt, this is your position. It takes it away. If this is tight here, again, work on breathing, allow gravity to take over. Now, once you do that, we're going to touch the thumbs. We're going to inhale Get the diaphragm involved. We're going to exhale. We're going to take the arms over the head. And notice how my thoracic spine kind of tilted upward. That's what we want. That means upper and lower is working together. Over the head and over the chest. Now also notice what's happening down here as you do the arms, because what will happen is those legs will open, because that means your paraspinals are working together. When this happens at the upper mid back, this wants to open more. Allow it to. If it's uncomfortable, see if you change your foot position one direction or the other to keep it there. If it's really hard, get out of it, go back to it. This should be a very comfortable position. It'll take out rotation. It'll help pronation. It allows, again, that kinetic chain from the hip to the foot to all work in the same unit. If your thighs tend to be more toward midline and your knees want to kind of collapse toward each other, you may feel it on inner thigh and on the knee. Again, it's okay. I always say if you're in the right position, I'm not going to change you. I want things to unwind and go where they belong, all right? So frog pullovers over the head and over the chest. And most of you will not be able to flatten those arms on the bed or on the floor. It's okay. Do what you can do with the arms still straight. As soon as they feel like they want to bend, you're done. If this is as far as you go, this is as far as you go. Over the chest and over the head. And what you'll notice is the more you do, the easier it gets. You may feel it in the arm, you may feel it in the torso, you may feel it in different places, you may feel it in your neck. Again, just take notice. Go slow enough to know what you feel. Palms are up. There's your inhale. When the arms go overhead, exhale, bring it back here. You can work on your breathing. Inhale. And you may have one arm that wants to go down, the other doesn't, especially if, like in this case, if my left side was my Parkinson side, it may not want to go back as easy. So over the head and over the chest. Over the head, inhale, and over the chest. That exercise you cannot do too much of. That's one I would highly recommend you do every day, one way, shape, or form. Once you do all of those, I guarantee you when you sit up, and what I want you to do is when you do sit up, I want you to do so slowly. If you've increased oxygen up here, you may feel lightheaded. You know what? Don't worry about it. Keep doing it, and that won't happen, because now you're getting oxygen up here, not just from the mouth down. So sit up slowly, stand up slowly, get your bearings, and then you can start moving. Take notice as to what you feel. You'll feel a whole lot better prepared for your day. Enjoy.